All right, here we are, locker room access. I'm Spencer. We got T Dubs, Have, and Mark. We got a lot of news this week. Let's break it down.
Yeah, where do you want to start? Reese declares for the draft. We talked about it, but now it's official. Like I know, have we didn't get your take earlier. What are your thoughts on Reese entering the draft? He does have eligibility remaining.
Well, yeah. So first of all, I you always root for the kid. I hope Reese has a really, really long and productive NBA career. As we sit here today, like I think there's a lot of work to do. When I played, you could tell the NBA players because they averaged 15, 16, 25 points, something like that. The big guys, they shot really well, they rebounded well. Like, I love Reese, but I want to see Reese. Number one, I want to see him average double figures. I want to see Reese shoot over. What did he shoot from the three this year? Like 33. I want to see him shoot deeper and better from three. And I want to see him win in the postseason. And I think that's something that everyone overlooks is to be a great player at any college, let alone UVA, you have to win in the postseason. It's one of the reasons we talk about Ty Jerome and Kyle Guy and that team with such high regard. They won when it mattered. And to be honest with you, I love Reese, but he has not done that yet. And I want to see him have postseason success, shoot it better, and really lead and dominate. Because when you go to the NBA, it gets much harder. So that's my take.
Yeah, I think we talked about it last time. It's there's no reason for him not to enter his name in the draft and
I
see
think
where he ranks.
you're right. I think he's being smart. Enter your name, keep your eligibility, see how you do. But if I'm an NBA GM, I'm looking at all of his threes. They're all right on the line. He's not taking the Ty Jerome, 6 feet behind the line shots. He didn't shoot a high percentage. He hasn't won in the postseason. Like, I love the kid. I want him to do well. So he's doing the right thing, but like I want to see more before I pick him as a bona fide NBA player. I'm obviously not an NBA talent coordinator, but that's just what I feel right now. And by the way, it's motivated by me wanting him to come back. So I'll start there.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, he's got to go through the process. He'll probably get good feedback, and we'll see where the chips fall. Like we talked about last time. Uh, Depending on what the feedback is, like it probably is going to be hard to say no if they say he's going to, get a two-way or get
Yeah,
drafted
but
in
see,
in
I,
the second round.
I agree with you. And I think that the impetus used to be declare for the draft because you can make money, right? But now you can make money in college. So I think that not as much, right? If you're a first, front end of the first round, you got to go. I don't think Reese is in that category. Like, I'd love to see us get our NIL act together and give give Reese a package where he looks like, hey, you know what? I think I should come back and work on my game because I need to work on shooting. I want to lead. Kihei's been my sidekick for a long time. I want to be the leader. I want to shoot better. Like, that's what I would want to see if I was running an NBA team. This kid wants to lead, shoot better, and win in the postseason, and then I'm going to draft you. That's what I would say.
You're not a big fan of the workouts and see how they do, and
Well, I remember Porzingis like put up 30 on a folding chair, and we all saw how that worked out, right? Like, um, the individual workouts are great, but at the end of the day, I mean, I think Mark would concur with this. If you're a guard in today's game, you have to stretch the floor and shoot. It's what your son, Mark, does so well. I mean, he does a lot of things really well, but he's always been able to shoot. And you look at, this is the time of year when we get those reminders on Facebook about our run to the national championship. And I get sucked in several times a year to watch it. look at the shots Ty Jerome was making. They're way back there. That's NBA range. Reese has to be able to do that because guess what? When he moves in 5 feet, that's a 2-pointer, not a 3-pointer. That's my take. I know it's unpopular. I root for him. I hope he goes number 1 overall in the draft, but that's my take.
I think that was your take on this. That was your perception on this from day one when we talked about his Reese Pro from his first year, when he got a lot of fanfare and he's got a lot of positives to his game. He is a college basketball player. You know the NBA scene from years ago when your dad was a superstar and you followed as you were a sideline reporter, and you still are a big Celtics fan, and you are aware of the NBA pedigree. You understand what an NBA player is. And perhaps Reese could turn into an NBA player. But if you can't shoot, now I also go back to, there are a lot of elite defenders in college basketball. How many elite defenders are there in the NBA? I can think of one.
Me too.
Who would you say? I'm saying Lou Dort is the only elite defender in the NBA that I can think of. I mean, as a guard forward, you can't guard guys in the NBA. It's virtually impossible. And I'm not even talking about the Steph Currys and the Damian Lillards who are just outliers. I'm talking about like really good NBA players. You can't guard pick and rolls. It's impossible. Like you try to guard it and you hope guys miss. So what's his value? What's Reese's value at the next level? Okay, he can play some full court to man-to-man, but now he's guarding college basketball players who are solid, who are really good college basketball players. But you look, and this is one of my other contingents, you look at the level of college basketball right now, and it is not what it was 4 years ago. It certainly isn't what it was 25 years ago. And you look at the ACC when every guard was a stepping stone. The ACC was a stepping stone for the NBA. Every top guard in the ACC was, no matter, almost at every school. That's not what the ACC is now. Who's going to the NBA from the ACC right now? The kid from NC State, right? Fresh's cousin, Quintavious Smith, right?
Yes. Yes.
I think who else? Who else is going to the league? Maybe the 2 guards from UNC, but I think I heard Caleb Love may be transferring.
He's in the portal.
Yep.
For Big Doe. So if he's in the portal, he's not looking to go to the NBA. Then you've got RJ Davis, really small. Who else is cool? The Duke guard, Proctor's coming back.
Isaiah Wong.
Yeah.
Who'd you say?
Isaiah Wong.
Isaiah Wong, yes. Yes. NBA player. And I'm not sure. I haven't seen Nigel Pack play as much as I've watched Isaiah Wong over the years. And they're good. And Nigel Pack's having a really good tournament. Guess what? Those guys got paid a lot of money to play college basketball last year.
Right.
So if Reese does go, and I hope he makes it, and even if he gets a 2-way, my thing is there's a 2-way more money than he would make at another college. Right? I'm not sure he's getting that at UVA. But I'm not saying that's the only reason why you go to the NBA or return to college.
So what, Marky? Educate me and our listeners, like an average 2-way, right? For somebody, what are they making? 500, 500, right?
A little over 500.
Okay. So that would be like Nigel Pack money. Nigel got 400, so a little bit under, and that was a big time deal.
I'm gonna stop you right there. Have breaking news coming in just 40 seconds ago. Armaan Franklin has declared for the 2023 NBA draft.
Oh, all right. And is he doing the declare and keep his name in the portal, or is he is he maintaining eligibility and declaring, or is he just going all out?
I think he's going all out. It looks like he's going all out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I'll pop up the post.
I think that was the thing about him, right? And we were given information a while ago that he was going to declare for the NBA draft. He's done with school. He's graduated. He's ready for the next phase in his life. Even if he's not an NBA player, I can respect that. I can respect Poppy transferring. I know people are up and upset about it. I can respect Caden transferring. Of course, I would prefer to see all those guys stay and be UVA guys and help us win, because going to have experience and they're good players. But these guys want a chance to showcase what they can do. I love Tony Bennett. I love the UVA team. I love the UVA system. Can there be tweaks? Absolutely. I'm not in practice every day. I'm not the coach. Going back to Armaan. Go ahead, Spence. You want to take that lead on that?
Yeah, I mean, here's the post. If we want to just check it out. Looks like he's going all the way. But
I'll read it real quick. I was blessed to be a part of the UVA Brotherhood, which I'm forever grateful for. To my teammates and coaches, thank you for pushing me every day to be the best version of myself. To all the fans that filled up John Paul Jones Arena, thank you for taking in a kid from Indiana and treating him like your own. Charlottesville will always hold a special place in my heart. After a lot of conversations with my family and coaches, I've decided to declare for the 2023 NBA draft. No mention of remaining eligibility. So I think, word was he was done with school.
We can assume he's moving on to try his hand at the NBA.
Yeah, NBA, G League, international.
By the way, so there is a long history of guys that have had good careers, and I would categorize his career as he had a good career. He was occasionally great, and like most players, had some bad games too. But like this year, he scored. He shot much better. There's a big history of guys that go into these, what I'll call sort of, well, now they have the NBA Summer League, but they've got tournaments and barnstorming, and they light it up. And you know what? If Armaan starts knocking down some deep shots and defends well, and maybe frees himself up outside of Tony's system in a more free-flowing way, hey, he could make it, and that's awesome. And that's not unusual, and that's happened a lot in the past. And Mark, you have 10 guys you can probably talk about that have done that.
Well, we have 2 at UVA. Who thought Trey Murphy would be this good?
Yeah.
And Sammy
Hauser.
Great year.
Well,
yeah.
Yes, but back to Reese with those guys. When I think of that team with Trey and Sam and Jay, they all had one common trait: they could all shoot. And
That's
that I think if you go to the NBA, I don't care where you play anymore, you got to be able to shoot.
And additionally to that, they're not guards. The point guard position is so hard. Yes. How do you guard some of those guys? And they're the ones controlling the game.
Yeah.
Right? Sam Hauser and Trey are great, but they're not the focal point of the offense, right? On each team, you've got Jaylen Brown on Boston. You've got what's his name from Duke?
Tatum.
Both of those guys are phenomenal players, and you got Sammy Hauser who can catch and shoot and get some open shots, and he does his part. He does his part, right? And Danny also just made a great comment. That's right. Kyle and Simba were tearing up the G League, and it's hard. So, I'm going to make that point, and then Trey Murphy, who's so freaking good, and can also. All 3 of those guys are capable, not just standing in the corner. All 3 of the guys are capable of being really good players. But they also have McCollum, and they have other guards, and Brandon Ingram on New Orleans, and they're not point guards, and that's just such a difficult position. So when you take Reese into that position, wow, it's tough. It's tough. And the last thing, even if he gets one G League contract, great. But if he doesn't make it from there, he's in the G League making 30, 35 a year, and he'll definitely be able to go overseas if he wants. Maybe he can be a great NBA player. I think that's potential, right? And for Armaan, you never know. He could be that guy.
What is the Reese comp in the NBA, or was it Jose Alvarado in terms of he's not as quick, he's not like that kind of tenacious defender.
Look at
Rondo is like a long, doesn't shoot, is a kind of long, but that's a different
level player,
completely different
knowledge. Yeah.
So there isn't a comp like Reese. I'm a Reese. Like there's been moments where you're like, this guy's the best.
Keeps your mic. TW, your mic just went static for a minute.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, there have been moments this season where he is like shown he's the best player in the court, but it just like if he stays healthy, maybe he can put it together. Like I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like they're just not a confident even like Kyle was an elite shooter and he still had a tough time, right? Like finding a solid place in the league. It's hard.
It's so hard for guards. It's ridiculously hard. It's hard for everybody, right? And that's why there's only been 3,500 people to ever play in the NBA. That's why there's so few spots, right? And that's why it's so hard. And this is the conversation we have. Is it harder to make it harder to stay in?
Yeah. I mean, Sean's saying Armaan is not tough enough. And then we got 2K saying he thinks Franklin can develop into an NBA bench player.
I don't know. He's done 4 years of school. 4 years of school. And Danny, I'm going to disagree with that. I love you to death, but I'm going to disagree with that. So who was that last question from about NIL?
Malik.
and that's always going to be a great topic, right? Because NIL, when you see this over the last few days, it's going to significantly change college sports. And I was talking back and forth with a college coach today, who's at a big school, an assistant coach in the Big East, and he's just like he's really upset about the NIL. This is going to change college basketball as we know it. It's never going to be the same. Unless it's going to be interesting to see what Congress does about this. Congress is meeting, I guess, the next couple of days or now to talk about this, and it's a mess. It's the Wild Wild West. You're going to see guys jumping from school to school. Right? They're going to be going for the payout. Which, I'm not mad at anybody. What's the difference between college basketball that it becomes between college baskall and the NBA or any other profession or Wall Street?
Yeah.
Or being a lawyer or whatever, if you're getting $1 million here, someone else is offering you $2 million.
Right. I think the thought out there is that other schools are using NIL and just paying players to come, which is technically illegal still. Like you can't incentivize a player to say, "Hey, come here and I'm going to give you a bunch of money." I'm not saying people aren't doing that. But UVA is following the rules of NIL, and I think that puts them at a disadvantage. Tony wants to do everything above the board. UVA wants to do everything above the board. I think that could hurt us when you're going out and other guys in the recruiting circle saying, "How much am I going to get paid?" And UVA can't give a straight answer, and some other school's just going to be like, "I'll give you $250,000 right now." And
I was just saying, T-Dubs, you're being nice. You know the deal.
Yeah, I mean, I do know. Like, I know and I've heard, but that's the reality. So it's not like UVA is opposed to using NIL to attract players. It's just illegal. Like by the rules, you cannot do that. You cannot ask a player to stay to give them money. You cannot ask a player to come to UVA for money. But ultimately, it's what happens. But we just don't play it that way.
And the coaches and the collectives can't be in the same room recruiting the players, right? And so I think St. John's has a chance to be good. I can see all those guys, all the players being recruited, being told,
"Yep,
I'll put you up in a luxury high rise on the Upper East Side or Midtown East, send you to campus to go to class practice or whatever, in Ubers back and forth, extra cash in your pocket, live like kings in New York City." I'm signing up for that. Who's not signing up for
that? And Mark, you got to remember, you got kids coming from different environments. Like, we have to figure this out. And I think part of it is going to be us figuring it out. Part of it is the NCAA figuring it out. It's going to change because it can't just be a kind of free for all, which I think it was this past year. It will lead to bigger problems. And the NCAA knows that, and they've talked about it. But it's got to become regulated in some way. Like, we don't need SEC level regulation. We need like basic rules. And I think if we get that, it'll even the playing field. I heard a really interesting argument today from Billis saying this is gonna, that everything is cyclical. Like 20 years ago, it was the one and dones. Remember how bad that was? It was like the worst thing ever. One and dones are terrible. Like, it's just bad for sports. He thinks it's going to go back to that. And he gave a lot of reasons for it.
I'm sorry, go back to what? Go back to...
He thinks it's going to go back to one and dones.
The rule is going to be you can go one and done. I'm confused.
He is saying that everything is cyclical. And when, sorry, the phone dropped. I'm trying to balance here, and I don't know if you guys can hear, but there's a mariachi band rehearsing behind me. So welcome to South Florida. He was saying it might go back to one and dones, where NIL get regulated, and if it gets regulated, then it's going to be and big news today in your invite to this podcast was if they're going to go 18 or 19, right? So what I'm trying to do is get us back to that, because Bill has thought it would stay one and done with a regulated NIL.
Yep. I don't know how you regulate it, but okay. I mean, I think there's still so much room for cheating, right? We are definitely, T-Dubs, you hit it. As you said, we're going to be at disadvantage. Guys, coaches are in the rooms, or they have somebody in the room with the collectives negotiating contracts, negotiating deals, right?
Right. I mean, I think if you were cheating prior, which we know lots of like programs were cheating, the line you make NIL and it's like they just continue cheating more openly, whereas a school like UVA, who's above board, this
Right.
gets introduced, and when we stay above board, it puts you at a disadvantage still, right? Like it's just factual.
It's the same thing. It's truly the same thing prior to NIL, right? The schools that were cheating, right, were cheating anyway, and UVA never was. I mean, UVA is so compliant. The players are so compliant, and he won't cheat, which I love about him, because guess what? After school, and only a few of the guys make it to the NBA or play overseas high level. What ethics are you treating? Are you teaching? And instructing?
Yeah, when was UVA not a disadvantage against cheaters? Like
Lance.
I mean, Ralph Sampson was the outlier. We got Ralph Sampson back in the day, and everyone's been yearning like that should happen all the time. And quite frankly, it probably will never happen again. The number one player in the country comes to UVA.
Unless Jason Williford's son, right?
It's going to be hard to replicate that. And everyone has been like waiting, every year for like, when are we going to get the another Ralph Sampson? It's like, like
never.
More than likely it won't happen.
Ever. Not under Tony Bennett. Not under Tony Bennett, right? Maybe somebody else.
You know who would have been really good at NIL, by the way? Pete Gillen. Pete Gillen would have been really good at NIL. I'm just saying that out loud right now.
Yeah, probably.
It's a controversy, but
we're
50 years. We are 50 years behind Kentucky on figuring out how to pay players. So, like, how do we make up for that? We don't. We're never going to be like they are. They've done it their way. We're going to do it our way, and we'll see who wins at the end of the day.
Yeah,
and it's going to be, and also it's going to be harder to be a fan now. I think that a lot of the loyalty is going to be removed, and I really hope, and maybe I'm wrong, because Kentucky and Duke still get tons of fans, right, supporting them, and they still have support all over the country. And so
that's a good point.
No, it is. It's a point. But at what point do I want to get involved as a funder and as a booster and as a coach, knowing that some guys are going to take money and bounce around? That's one of my fears. Like, okay, I'm making this commitment to you. What commitment are you making to me? Right. And I guess that's what people were saying about the one and dones initially too, when you talk about Billis, is I guess he was talking about in his show or wherever you heard it, talking about with all the controversy surrounding one and done when it initially started.
I think this comment from Chris is, JPJ was privately funded. Why UVA alums need to step up. I think there is a leap there, because exactly what you talked about, which is you give dollars, you see a building go up. You give dollars to a commit, and there's a bunch of unknowns, right? First off, like, then you're basically in the recruiting game. And if let's just use Isaac Trout as an example. Let's just say we went crazy and paid Isaac Trout $200,000 to come. We're happy. He's a great shooter, all the things. Red shirt, he transfers. How you gonna feel with your $200,000? Like, not great. And I get it.
No.
Like, you could be Miami and you could go to the Final Four, but there's also the flip side, which I think is, UVA doesn't have a huge alumni base that's making those kinds of donations on a regular basis to to fund something like this? Because you're talking about, UNC with $3 or $4 million payroll for their roster. Like, that's a lot of money. I would love to see, like, if I won the lottery, I would do it. I just haven't got there yet. But like, it just is what it is. It's tough. Like, it's hard to justify. Like,
I
funding it.
think it's cultural, T-Dub, too. Like, when you look at schools, like some of the bigger, blue bloods that have had a lot of success, they've been doing it for years. So they're not sort of horrified with the thought of paying players because they've been doing it for a long time, truthfully. And we're sort of like the Jamaican bobsled team of NIL. Like, we're trying to learn it and we're trying to get good fast, and we've got some foundational skills there, but we're not good bobsledders yet. And some schools are. And I think at some point, unless it's regulated, you're gonna have to say, hey, we're gonna ride this like we do with Tony, with players that stick around longer and have that are long-term greedy instead of short-term greedy, and see how we do. But unfortunately, I think a lot of the players coming out now just culturally are short-term greedy, and that's going to be hard for us to address.
Well, but also, how many of them are going to make it? Are going to get that kind of money at the next level, right? Everybody can't. Every guy who's making $500,000 or $1 million at NIL, how much are they going to make? If they don't make the NBA, everybody can't make the NBA. It's not possible. It's not possible. Do you see that? How much the teams get paid for making NCAA now? Yeah, Lance comment. I'm sorry, I was reading quickly. Harold, that's exactly what I'm bringing up. But did you guys see that point that somebody just made earlier about Caitlin Clark from Iowa making $2 million?
Yeah, where was that? Here it is.
Amazing.
Yeah,
she is.
Is that accurate? Do we know?
I'm sure it is. Like, women get paid the most for NIL. Like, I think, without a doubt, I think across the influencer network, females get paid just a lot more in general because they have a broader range of audiences.
Is that on the whole? But like in college basketball.
In college basketball too, I think last year as well. I think Paige Buchers was the highest NIL.
But you're talking about a very few, right?
Very few
who get the majority of the money, right? Where it's more spread out amongst men.
I think even at UVA, the women's sports generate more NIL than the men's sports. I know that sounds crazy because there's football and there's basketball, but like the women's dive team, there's lacrosse, there's field hockey that have a few players that make six figures and above. I think there was one. I want to say it was women's volleyball that had a $250,000 deal. That's a lot of money.
Like Caitlin Clark.
Hey, I have $2. I'm all in for the ladies cashing in. Let's go.
Yeah.
Well, you have a daughter about to embarking on her first year. When is that? She's a junior now.
She's a junior, but I will say, like, NIL was part of the pitch and what they're building and doing, and I think that's cool, and I hope everybody gets it. By the way, do you guys know where I'm calling from right now? Or checking in? I'm checking in from the college basketball capital of the world, South Florida, with FAU and Miami both in.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I just want you to open the window so we can hear the mariachi band.
Dude, we almost came to blows, but I think he's a good guy, so I didn't throw a punch at him. But I think he was messing with me.
We'd hate for you to get into a scuffle right on the eve of the final.
Hey, but I will say, so I was on campus of FAU and Miami yesterday doing some things for a company that I work with. And wow, like those schools are on fire right now. FAU unexpectedly, obviously, and Miami unexpectedly too, but they're in the ACC. They've had big games. Just a lot of cool stuff down here in South Florida. But I still wish I was in Houston, and I wish UVA was there too.
Awesome, guys. I have to jump. This is always good, and I think that there's a lot of information out there, and I'm a little bit worried and concerned about the future of college basketball in general.
Yeah,
UVA basketball. And I hope that the product is not so corrupted, because I love it so much. Selfishly, I do want to see guys get paid, but I just hope it doesn't disrupt.
We got to regulate, Marky baby. We got to regulate it.
Yep, I agree. It's got to be regulated somehow. Not that I want to dictate or determine how much what their value is. I don't think we're in that position. I don't think we should do that. No one regulates what hedge fund managers make. Right. No one regulates what partners in law firms make. No one regulates what entertainers make, the top people. So I'd hate to regulate, but I just selfishly, I don't want to see,
I don't agree with a cap. I mean, the cap seems incredibly unfair. Like you're worth what you're worth, what you can get, and what people are willing to pay. And that's the hard part, right? You got to. All right, Mark. Appreciate you jumping on. I think that's the hard part. You like, how do you? I think Dragon said we should have contracts. There absolutely should be contracts. There should be things laid out that have some safeguards in place. But yeah, like this is. I mean, the ultimate idea was like it's just free reign, right? You get what you get what you're worth. You get what you're able to people are willing to pay. So like it's
but I don't think it's analogous to like regular like people say, well, no one regulates what a hedge fund guy makes, but take like Bill Ackman, who's like incredible, right? You guys know Ackman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he wasn't the same when he wasn't who he is now when he was 19. He wasn't worth as much. So like I do think it's got to be shrunk to, just like when you look at someone's career, whether it's a blue collar job, a finance job, law, marketing, tech, whatever, if you do a good job, you move up the ladder. I think we're giving a lot of money to kids that are not developed yet, and I just don't think the marketplace has been fairly valued yet.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's tough, right? Because it's true in the open market. Rarely do you get paid in lumps. You get an annual salary; they don't just cut you a check for it. You work, and it's prorated, right? Like, so why isn't it prorated here? Like those are things that'll get worked out, I think, over time. So we'll see. I know Danny Alter saying Duke players are there from Thanksgiving. I don't know. Who cares about Duke? No, I'm kidding. Yeah, it is what it is. The thing is, people are going to root. It is ultimately we're rooting for our school, not necessarily the player. Like, we love the players because you love your school, and then it goes that route. So like that is what it is, right? They come to school, you learn about them, you fall in love with them, and then you root for them as people. But the first reason is the name on the front of the jersey. And I think that no matter, let's just say it waters the sport down and things change. Like, ultimately, you still love UVA. Lots of people will still cheer for UVA, even if the product isn't great, and we'll still cheer. And March Madness will be fun. And like, even if we're not the best team, or we have a crazy mix of talent, people will still cheer and people will still love them, and they might not love it as much. But I think the NCAA, at least for a while, will continue to exist and will continue to have fans. Now, people stop going to college. That's a whole different thing. But like,
yes, someone's going to crack the code, right? Calipari cracked the code on one and done. Krzyzewski copied them, and then everyone started getting in on that game. Someone's going to crack the code on the balance of NIL, one and done, transfer portal. Like, someone's going to figure it out, and they're going to win a couple, 2, 3 in a row. And then hopefully there's regulation. But at the end of the day, you said it best, T-Dub. At the end of the day, I want to root for Virginia, not individual players. I'm rooting for UVA.
Right.
It's Celtics, Lakers, Red Sox, Yankees for me. It's not, Tatum versus LeBron. And that when we get to that point, that's when things are sideways.
Yeah, Julie's comment, giving kids a lot of money so young, it carries a lot of responsibility. Who is helping them manage it, invest it? They are only 18. I mean, that's
Tom Henske. Tom Henske is going to show them what to do with their money.
That's the thing, that you're 18, you're old enough. Like it's not on the person who pays them. It's not their responsibility. It's on the player. You got to figure it out. Like you're in this space, you got to learn. You're in school, you got to figure it out. Like it's on your parents. It's on you. You spend it all, you lose it all. That's like part of life, right? If you're gonna be in this open space where you can make as much as you want, you can lose it as well. Like that's on you. As far as I'm concerned, is if I'm giving somebody $100,000 to do something, it's not my responsibility for them to spend it wisely. I don't, but it is what it is. I get it. We're in an education system, and that's part of it. This is how you learn, right? You learn by doing.
I feel like that to a point that it's valuable, and I think it might make the university more open to kind of wanting to do more with NIL if that they know that the kids who are getting the money are going to be responsible with it. So if there was some sort of education system in place to say,
Might
okay,
help.
you're getting $200,000, but right now you get to have $50,000, and then $50,000 you get when you graduate, and the other 100 you get down the line, and then there's some sort of education of how to invest, how to be responsible with your money. I think that it would definitely be a way that the university would be more on board with supporting NIL and getting behind it if they knew that the money wasn't just going towards bar tabs at Trin.
Yeah, that's fair. It is a little scary. What
a
did
lot
Eric?
of bagels at Bodo's, by the way. $200,000 will buy you a lot of bagels. Boys, I gotta bounce. I loved seeing you. Thanks for having me back, and
same.
I'll see you next one.
All right, let's call it, Spence. Appreciate everybody jumping in with comments, questions. We'll be back on here in as news pops up. We'll jump on and chat. Appreciate all the feedback. We'll be back soon.
Go Who's.